Good morning, everybody. This is John Scarborough. I wanted to make a little video today about when you kind of get first started on a farm or a homestead. Like if you've never farmed before, like for me, I may have farmed a little, as a young boy, but there wasn't as many. Most of my responsibilities were at home. Everything was different then, so I'm not really using that in this comparison. But I'm talking about coming from a working relationship, an environment where you go and work for somebody else. Like I worked for myself for the most part, but I still had to show up on a job site where there were other people there. So even though I worked for myself, there was still some sense of I have to go there, and all like that. Something about getting on the farm or on a homestead and you're there working all the time makes it to where there's not as much accountability. We'll use that word. And it's not that you don't want to do right, and it's not that you're a lazy person at all. Usually if you're thinking about getting into farming, a lot of times you're not a lazy person. That's not always true. But in my experience, there are quite a few people. I mean, if you get into it, you're lazy, you're just not going to stay in it, period. But anyway, so what I wanted to touch on a little bit is kind of responsibility and something you want to think about, something you want to realize that it can be an issue a little bit. Because when you get home and whether it's through farming or homesteading, or even an at-home job, there was a time when I didn't have a whole lot of farm responsibilities. When I first started farming, the farm responsibilities were less. I only had 10 mama cows, and they were less than normal. But there was a time period where I didn't have a town job, and I was at home. So during that time, a lot of my home responsibilities were I was working on fire pits quite a bit at that point, and things like that, and other things in the shop too, other fab work. So that was kind of the same deal. Like it was not a huge amount of accountability, but on the other hand, there was some accountability because the customers were still waiting for their stuff. But there seems to be no profession, no source of making a living more, what's the word for it? More susceptible to the lack of accountability. So that's something you got to remember. It's very easy, and where I'm going with this is it's very easy to think to yourself, okay, well, that other thing can wait, or there's not really anybody watching. It doesn't. If I don't move my cows today, there's no one watching. It is going to hurt some stuff, but there's no one watching. And so you got to be careful about that. And so I figured this was a good example here. We got this sawmill. I think it was, I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was a couple days ago for sure. We got it here, and as soon as we got it here, I got it all unboxed, and I made several videos. A lot of those will come out across several days, but all those videos were actually made in one day. But anyway, and then we got this put up for the most part. It wasn't completely squared off, but it was pretty close to leveled up. Got it all put together and everything. But then we didn't do any more because it got dark after that. Well, after that, it's a lot easier to work with two people. So I was waiting on my wife to have time. She still has to work in town. Waiting for her to have time. And then it started raining. And I could have done this in the rain, but there was a lot of things that she had to do with the business and things like that. And so it made more sense not to do it at that point. Well, then today is just a very beautiful day. Okay, so we did get back to it last night, and we got the saw head assembled, and for the most part, there's still a little bit more to do. And that was fine. There was no reason why we couldn't do that. Didn't get completely done, but we worked until dark. She actually had some microgreens she had to start harvesting after dark, so we had to kind of knuckle down and work a little after dark. We try to get done before 5 most times, but that does not always happen on a farm. And that's part of the responsibility thing is, like another example is a couple days ago, it was just really nasty and rainy, and I had several cows I had to worry about getting fed, and it was like I was sick. I didn't feel well at all. I was a little bit sick. I wasn't terribly sick, but I didn't want to be out in that misty rain. It wasn't terribly cold, but it's like 36, 35, 36. And it was just cold enough to where that misty rain just made that a miserable, miserable day. But anyway, so we were out there. I didn't want to be out there, but I had to just knuckle down and force myself to spend the day out there. And I ended up out there a lot longer than I wanted to. And that's part of responsibilities, you know. You want to spend as little time as possible, but I kind of had to do it. There was nothing else I could do. But then now, today is a great example because it's a beautiful day. The weather's nice. I mean, it's very nice. I mean, I happen to be in a coat right now because I was in one this morning because it was quite cold this morning. But I just haven't even thought to take it off. But honestly, I could just have a long sleeve shirt on out here and I would be fine, even in the shade here. It's just a very beautiful day. Calm and nice. I mean, there's a few dogs barking in the background, but it's a nice day. And the cows are fed, so I don't have to worry about feeding them. If that was something, you definitely want to take care of that. But I'd got to go set up some fence and get them ready to be moved. Get them ready to be moved into the working pens because we need to do some stuff with working them. And so that's something that I need to do today. I don't really want to because I want to go back to work on this. I've gotten pretty much to the point now where I don't have to have a second person. I can finish assembling this, except for laying the saw head onto that. I can finish all the little details by myself. And so I really, really want to be working on this. But then I also need to put out mineral. I need to go check on everything. There's some, I got to move the goats and sheep. You know, there's things that I've got to go do today, and that's my responsibilities. That's the things I need to do. But I guess I'm just putting this video out as a warning to anybody just getting started. This will be something that will happen. You'll run into several places where there's things that it's new, it's exciting. I mean, this is brand new, you know, and it's a new experience for me. I haven't really done any sawmilling. You know, I've done a little bit of, I've been exposed a little bit to it, but I've never owned a sawmill, and but I've always enjoyed working with trees and things. So I'm excited about this, you know. It's new and exciting, and it's something I really want to get after, you know. And I spent a decent penny on this, you know. So I really want to get going with it, you know. And then a lot of times when your head, this is something else that comes with farming too, is when your head is on what you're doing currently, you don't want to switch. You do not want a job shift. And so there's two things that I can say about job shifting. One is it's very inefficient. You're much more efficient to stay on one job. But two, as a farmer, sometimes you have to job shift, whether you want to or not. So I would tell you, A, to minimize the job shifting as much as physically possible, but B, understand that in a lot of ways it is a necessity and you will have to learn to work with that. So like assembling this saw is not a priority for me right now. It will become a priority, and it is sitting right in the middle of the shop. So if there was something I had to pull in here and work on it, then it would be a problem. And so it will become a priority. So we want to work on it with every extra minute that we have, and maybe even stay up slightly later in the evenings and things like that to try to get it put together. I need to get more light in here to where I can be working later at night, and I just haven't been able to get that done. You know, so those are things that you got to remember. Like it's somewhat important, and it can be easy to tell yourself that, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Well, the next thing you know, you start falling behind on the things you need to. Mineral is important for your animals. You know, you're making sure you move them on time. All of those things are very, very important. And so you just got to remember those things when you get to your homestead or to your, or you start a farm business, and you can't be perfect all at first. You know, you're moving towards a good goal, but that your income does depend on that. And it does directly affect your income, how diligent you are about that. So I'm not saying another trap that you can fall into is to tell yourself, okay, well, I know it's about responsibilities, and you just become too responsibility driven, where you're continually just nonstop focused on that. You don't need to do that either. For the most part, if you have time, I would tell you to design every day, or design a day based on what would make you happy. You know that day needs some responsibility. So when you go to bed at night, you need to feel like, okay, I met my responsibilities and I took care of those responsibilities. And that's, meeting those responsibilities actually makes you very happy, much happier than you might realize. So keep that in mind, that those responsibilities, meeting those responsibilities does have a direct effect on your happiness. Okay, and you may not think it, but definitely after a couple of days, it's okay to take a few days off, not from feeding your animals, but if you have somebody else that can take care of that, it's okay to go take a vacation or something. But for the most part, meeting your responsibilities is what makes you happy. It does, happier than you realize. Okay, so design a day that gives you, that's you taking care of responsibilities. Okay, so like for me, for instance, I know I've got several responsibilities, but I really want to get this done. Okay, it's been sitting here for several days. I've kind of done a few things here and there. It definitely shouldn't have taken this long, but it had to, based on what I had to do. But I want to see it running, okay? So I know I've got several responsibilities. So my goal today is, of course, I've already taken care of a few things. As you can tell, we've gotten to, I think it's like 8:30 right now. But anyway, so we've already taken care of a few things today. So now I'm going to go feed mineral, put out mineral, take care of all of that, make sure there's salt, mineral, and everything like that. I'm going to go set up all of those wires, and we're going to get those cattle moved, get them moved into where they need to be. We're probably not going to be able to work them today, so we're going to make sure they've got enough to be taken care of until we are able to work them, and make sure they don't stay in one spot too long. So we're going to do all of that, okay? And then after that, I've got some shiitake logs that are still on the ground from the last time that I cut. I've got a few videos out there. I've got most of them picked up, but there's a few that's on the ground, and you don't want those on the ground too long. So we're going to go get all of those picked up, because those are my priorities. And then after that, I'm going to make sure everything else that is priority driven is done, okay? After that, my priorities are done. Now, I don't know how much more time I'll have. I should be able to get most of that done. But I'm going to go do all of those things, but then I'm going to acknowledge that I really want this. This is going to make me happy to do this as well. And it is a good thing, and eventually it will become a priority. So while I'm still hyped up about it, rather than making it a stressful thing, I do want to get it done before it becomes stressful, okay? So I'm going to base my morning, my early, the beginning of my day on high priority jobs, and I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to try to give myself at least a few hours to where I can come out here and start working on this. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to rig up some lights across here to where I can work for the rest of the evening. I really don't like working past 8 if I don't have to. Sometimes it's okay, and sometimes you absolutely have to. We've worked until midnight before, even longer, if we had to. But primarily, I try very hard not to work so long that it disrupts our important schedules. You know what I mean? Like our important routines, and those are important. So our routines that say that we have to get up at a certain point. We like to get up. We find it's best for us to get up about 5:30. That gives us time to do everything we need to do, giving us time for ourselves in the morning and everything else. And that works for us, getting up about 5:30 every morning. And we both actually really enjoy it once we knuckle down and figure that out. So to get up at 5:30, typically we want to go to bed at a certain time to make sure that we get the amount of sleep that is best for us to do. So we want to make sure that, I try to make sure that we don't work any longer than 8 o'clock for the most part. We make sure that no matter how important it is, not no matter how important it is, but unless it's absolute vital, we try to be done by 8 o'clock. Most nights we can pull that off, most days. On occasion, especially Friday nights, it can be a little difficult to pull that off. But we finally honed it down and pretty much got it figured out to where, for the most part, we're done, and we don't have to worry about that. A lot of times, we're able to get in by 5 o'clock. Not everybody can do that, and for a long time, we couldn't. There was no way we could, but we're finally getting to that point. And that's a good goal, too. And I don't mean quitting by 5 o'clock. I just mean done with the farm work, okay? But anyway, so that's one thing we do try to do. So that's what I'm going to do. That's how I'm going to plan my day out. But I have to be very diligent about understanding my priorities. And I'm putting this video out because I know firsthand how easy it is to tell yourself, there's no one watching me. There's no one that's going to know that I didn't make sure that all of my animals had mineral. There's no one that's going to know. And it's only one day. They can go without mineral and stuff, and it's like, yeah, you can get away with all of those things. But should you? Should your business be like that? But not only that, the more you say it's okay to do, you will push those boundaries farther and farther and farther until they're, if you knew for a fact that you would never push those boundaries more than a little, you would be fine. The problem is, as soon as you get out of discipline enough to push those boundaries a little bit, you've gotten rid of your discipline. So then now you're going to push those boundaries more and more and more and more because you've already gotten rid of your discipline. So that's important to remember. That's just some tips on what I've learned. I've been self-employed for quite some time. I've been at home working for a decent amount of time. And now I'm fully employed at home. My wife, not yet, but fully employed at home and on the farm, and most of my work is farm work. And so it's something that I've learned over time and gotten better and better and better at. Still fail from time to time. The reason I brought this video up is because I was very tempted this morning. I took care of what absolutely had to be taken care of and made sure all the animals had hay and all like that. Did those things and made sure the pigs were fed and made sure there's nothing wrong with the ducks, and everything, and everything was taken care of. That's something I do every morning regardless, But then I was very tempted to come up here and do this, okay? So that's one reason why I wanted to make this video. But I'm not going to drag it out too much longer. I just wanted to throw that out there, guys. Remember that your responsibilities need to be met, and you need to make sure you're meeting some kind of responsibility every day. You don't have to work nonstop every single day. You don't have to be 100% priority driven all hours of the day. But you need to make sure that you're meeting your top priorities every single day, no matter what. And you need to make sure that every day you're meeting some kind of priority as well, and slowly moving forward towards those priorities and keeping those things done. While at the same time, having a nice, healthy balance, telling yourself what would give me, what else would make this day a good day? Because at the end of the day, literally, you want to make sure that you've enjoyed that day, if possible. You're not going to get that every day, but that's something you want to move towards. Like, okay, today was a good day. I really enjoyed that day. And you want to try to get better and better at fabricating good days for yourself, no matter what you're doing for a living. You don't have to be farming at home. Just figure out what things help you to fabricate good days. And you can get better and better and better at that, I promise you. So anyway, guys, hope this video helped some people. We're going to probably have a couple, or at least one last video once we're done, and then we'll start having some more videos on this sawmill. But for now, I've got to go take care of my responsibilities. So thanks, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe.